Hi everyone, I hope you're really well. Welcome, or indeed welcome back to the channel. If you are new, don't forget to hit subscribe, because today I have an update for you guys in terms of how I've been getting on experimenting with these two foundations. So this video today is going to be a slightly different format if you're used to my other foundation update videos. What I used to do is, after I tested about 5 or 6 different foundations, I would pull them all together in one kind of update video where I'd go through my thoughts on each one, and I wasn't overly happy with the format of those videos. So I asked you guys what you'd like to see instead, and the consensus very much was that you would like to see update videos on foundations individually. So I'm starting off with the foundations from The Ordinary, and I thought I may as well actually put both in together. So I'm going to be talking about both the Serum and the Coverage foundation in this video. Future videos, it probably will literally just be one foundation per update video, but because these are the only foundations that The Ordinary have come out with so far, I thought I may as well put them in one update video. If you've not seen my first impressions videos of these foundations, I will pop a card up here and a link down in the description box, because those could be worth checking out if you want to see how each of the foundations are applied. What I've decided to do in these update videos, I'm still going to try and give you as much information as possible, but if you feel like I've missed out anything at all, then let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to include that information for next time. So in order to try and make this video as concise and helpful as possible, I've decided to break it down into kind of categories of what I'll be covering. So in the first section, I thought we'd just have a very quick refresher on each of the foundations, just so that we can remember all of the facts about each of them. I'll also be showing you some swatches and comparisons to other foundations as well, because I know it's really handy to have that information. I'm also going to be assessing each of these foundations against the claims that The Ordinary made about these foundations, just to see if they're going to live up to what The Ordinary said they were going to be like. I'm going to talk a little bit about my preferred application method and whether there are any advantages or disadvantages to different types, so whether that's fingers, sponge or brush. Obviously I'll be talking a fair bit about the experimentation phase of my tests of these foundations, because in my first impressions videos I literally just use moisturiser. There's no primer or setting powder. I reserve playing with all of those things for this kind of video, and then I'll finish with my final conclusion and what I really did make of testing these foundations over the last couple of months. And I also just quickly wanted to say that if you watch to the end of the video, there's also going to be a cheeky little giveaway too. Okay, so first things first, let's just have a quick reminder about these foundations and what they're all about. So if you've not heard about The Ordinary or don't really know much about the brand, they became pretty YouTube famous thanks to a makeup artist and fellow YouTuber called Wayne Goss. Now, he raved and raved about the different skincare that they created, and they're quite well known for creating really simplistically packaged, really good quality skincare. And it can be quite confusing to use because they've named everything in quite a sciencey kind of way. I have quite the Ordinary skincare collection, which I'm currently kind of working through and testing and really trying to decide which ones are my favourites, which ones I'd repurchase and that kind of thing. But The Ordinary have made it at such a price point that it makes experimentation actually really very easy, because we're not talking really expensive products here. I think the cheapest skincare product they have is £3.90, which is for a primer, and then the highest price point you'll pay I think is around the £14 or £15 mark. So it's definitely affordable stuff to play with. When they announced that they were actually coming out with a foundation, the world went into an absolute meltdown of excitement, because there was already a lot of hype around the skincare products as well. And when they announced that you could pre-order the foundations, I think it was back at the end of March this year, again, the world went into some kind of frenzy once people started to realise what was happening, and they also wanted a piece of the action, because we are talking about seriously affordable makeup here. There is a slight difference in the price points, but really it's hardly anything. The Serum foundation is just £5.70 for 30ml, and the Coverage foundation is £5.90 for 30ml. So we really are talking super affordable prices here. It's the kind of price point where you could wander into the drugstore and find a few foundations maybe cheaper, but you're going to be hard pushed because most brands that you'd usually associate with the drugstore, like Max Factor or L'Oreal, their prices can start from about $7.99 and they just go up from there. And actually what I'm finding more to be the case is they're actually leaning more towards about half the price of what you'd pay for a higher end foundation. In terms of the shade range, it's fantastic. There are 21 different shades across both the Serum and the coverage foundations. You will need to do a fair bit of research in terms of which shade you are, but they are forgiving enough that you should be able to get away with 3 different shades as long as you find something fairly close to what you think you should be. I have heard that the yellow and even the neutral undertone foundations are very yellow, so definitely check out swatches first just to see where you think you might need to fit. In terms of me personally, I have pink undertones, and I was very lucky in so much that the bit of a gamble that I took when I placed my order back on the 28th of March when you first could, and there were no swatches available at all, I went for 1.2p in both formulations, and they both suit me really well. So that was very lucky that I managed to do that. So just to talk a little bit about the claims of these foundations and what I've actually made of them. In terms of the Serum foundation, they've said that it's a lightweight, medium coverage formulation, and I would definitely agree with that. I think it does offer a really good, solid, medium level of coverage, which I was actually really pleasantly surprised with when I did the first impressions video. I was amazed at how much it had actually smoothed everything out and actually looked like a lot higher level of coverage than I was expecting, and it's definitely very lightweight. It's an incredibly watery formula which is very easy to blend, and it feels like you're wearing absolutely nothing on the skin, so I would definitely agree with that. They also say that it offers moderate coverage that looks natural with a very lightweight serum feel. So again, I would agree with the lightweight feel, and it definitely does look very natural. It does mesh and really blend very nicely in the skin upon initial application. It's very low in viscosity and is dispensed with a supplied pump, or you can actually get a glass dropper if you want to buy it separately. It is a very fluidy foundation, which I mentioned, and because of that I do think I would have preferred the dropper instead of the pump. I just find the pump quite messy with the Serum foundation, and I think a dropper would have been the much better route to go, but that's just personal preference. They go on to say that again it should look very natural on the skin, and it should resist collecting within fine lines and stay on for longer, and it will offer a semi-matte finish and are compatible with most primers, but are obviously designed to work exceptionally well with the primers offered from The Ordinary. Okay, so this is where I'm going to slightly disagree with some of the things that they've said here. When you initially apply either of the foundations, actually they look beautifully natural on the skin, and they blend really nicely as well, so they do resist kind of clinging to any texture issues or dryness, provided I've obviously prepared my skin properly. In terms of the semi-matte finish, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, and I think the Serum foundation is actually more of a kind of luminous and slightly dewy finish. It still looks very skin-like, but there's kind of a glow to it which makes your skin actually look really beautifully healthy, but for someone with oily skin like me, it makes me very nervous about what's going to happen throughout the rest of the day. In terms of the actual coverage foundation, the coverage is definitely amped up in this formulation, and they've said it contains a higher pigment level than the Serum foundation, but it will still offer a smooth finish that avoids the heavy makeup look that can make skin appear more aged. The texture is still lightweight, and it's a non-oily cream. In terms of the rest of the claims for the coverage foundation, they're exactly the same in terms of offering a semi-matte finish that will also resist settling into fine lines and giving you that obvious makeup look. So in terms of both formulations, I would say that they both suffer the same issue, and this is definitely something that I've discovered through quite extensive experimentation, and that is both formulations do end up going very oily on me, and that's irrespective of what products I've used underneath or on top of them. One thing I've definitely learnt with both of these foundations is less is more. If you want to try and build up the coverage a little bit to try and get more of a full coverage, particularly obviously with the coverage version, then the more product you use, the more it starts to sit on the surface and not really mesh into the skin. I actually do have the coverage foundation on today. I think I used just over a pump, and hopefully you'll be able to see that actually I still have a fair bit of stuff showing through. So I would actually say that both of them offer a good solid medium level of coverage. It just kind of more comes down to what your skin type is and whether you've got maturing skin, whether you've got oily skin, all that kind of stuff. And actually what kind of feel you like for a foundation as well. Do you prefer something that's a little bit creamier, or do you prefer something a little bit thinner? When you start to try and build these foundations up at all, that's when I found I've really started to run into some problems, particularly with oiliness. Like I said, they don't obliterate everything, so if you are wanting to get the coverage foundation to maybe expect a full level of coverage out of it, I am really not sure that you would get it. So if that's the kind of look that you're looking for, I would suggest you either look elsewhere, or you look to either mix this with something else that is higher coverage, or obviously go down the concealer route. Because unfortunately, as much as it does smooth and even everything out, there is still quite a lot showing through. And hopefully you'll either be able to see this right now as I'm talking, or I've done some cutaways and you'll be able to see it there, because I do still have hyperpigmentation showing across my forehead, and I still have blemishes showing through as well, which I haven't concealed right now. The only concealer I've got is under my eyes today, because I just wanted you to see what level of coverage you truly are getting from the coverage formulation when you have used what is actually quite a decent amount. In terms of the finish and them saying that it's a semi-matte finish, I'm not sure if I would agree with that for the serum formulation. I would say the coverage formulation does have a slightly more matte finish to it, but I do need to powder both of these just to try and lock everything in for that little bit longer, because I am going to be getting oily later on. In terms of application method for either of them, I don't really have much of a preference. I think both of them apply beautifully with whatever is your preferred method of application, whether that be fingers, sponge or brush. That's actually quite a nice unique position to be in, because usually in a lot of cases foundations can quite often lean one way or the other in terms of brush or sponge for application, and today I've just used my fingers to apply this. And sometimes it can actually be quite nice using fingers to apply this foundation, just so that you can really work it into the skin a little bit more, because you're really getting a feel for the product and how it's actually sitting on the skin. The last thing they mentioned is use of a primer, and as you probably know, I do have quite the primer stash, including both of the primers from The Ordinary. So I've got the high adherence and the high spreadability, and I also tested both of them with the Hourglass Mineral Veil, because I kind of feel like this is pretty amazing with most foundations and can really make a difference to wear time, particularly if you do have oily skin. And then I've also got the Hylamide Matte 12 as well, because mainly the thing that I'm trying to combat with these foundations is the oiliness, because if you did see my first impressions videos on both of the foundations, then you'll know that I was so excited about both of them, and I kind of assumed that primer or setting powder would just sort them out and everything would be okay. Unfortunately, I was actually wrong to assume I was going to be able to sort these foundations out with a primer, because what I've actually found is with any of the primers that I've used, I've still really struggled with the oiliness situation, which is incredibly frustrating, because it feels like it's actually a really straightforward thing to fix. Usually a good mattifying primer will sort out most foundations. There have been a few little exceptions along the way where they've still been very glowy or dewy, or something's happened and my oils have just come through and it's just all gone a bit wrong. And unfortunately that is pretty much the case with both of these foundations. Initial wear for say 4 hours looks fantastic, and like I said, it does give you a very beautiful and natural level of coverage, which does look very nice and doesn't look cakey. But it doesn't really take much longer than that for things to start going wrong very quickly. And unfortunately, there's just something in these foundations which my skin is just not particularly liking, just purely from an oiliness point of view, because the parts of my face that don't really go very oily still look really nice. So it's been a huge disappointment in that respect that I've not been able to sort it. One of the ingredients that comes very high up on both of these foundations is something I'd not heard of before, and it's actually coconut alkanes. And from what I've read about coconut alkanes is that it's a plant-derived silicone obtained from coconut oil, which provides a smooth feel and helps spreadability. And I don't know whether it's that my skin is having a bit of an issue with when it comes to oiliness, because the more digging I started to do about this ingredient that I'd not heard of before, the more I saw it causing issues in terms of breakouts on the skin. I personally haven't had any issues with breakouts with either of these foundations. It's just purely the oiliness situation that unfortunately I just wasn't able to control. All in all, in terms of my final conclusion, I would still recommend these foundations because it's not like I don't reach for them, it's just that I can't use them on their own anymore. I find that they are fantastic mixers, they do seem to mix with other products really nicely, so if you want to use them as quite an affordable alternative to maybe lighten or darken a foundation, then this could be a really good option. Likewise, if you want to change the texture or the finish of a foundation, which is primarily what I use mine for, if I've got a foundation that's very mattifying and my skin is feeling a little bit dry perhaps, then I'll reach for the Serum foundation and I'll mix the two together, and it really does help the mattifying foundation not cling to dry patches quite so much. Again, if you've got a very lightweight foundation and you just want to amp up the coverage a little bit, or maybe make the coverage look a bit more natural, then the coverage formulation is a good option to do that. So actually my plan for both of these foundations is to use them more as mixers and not standalone foundations, because unfortunately on their own things just get far too oily for me. I think if you had normal to dry skin, these foundations could look absolutely beautiful because they do offer a really nice level of coverage that looks very natural, and at the end of the day they are really affordable formulations, so provided you can get your hands on them, I still think they're worth experimenting with. Okay, I think that just about does it in terms of my final thoughts and how I've got on experimenting with both of these foundations. I did mention at the beginning of the video that I would be doing a giveaway, and this is what I'll be giving away to one of you watching this. So this is the Coverage Foundation formula in 1.1p. So I know the chances are that not everyone will obviously want to enter this giveaway, but like I said, if you want to maybe try this as a mixer to lighten or darken a foundation, then still feel free to enter. This shade I bought along with the other ones, and I haven't actually opened it at all because I knew that this one was going to be too light for me. So if you would like to be in with a chance of getting your hands on this foundation, I've put all the details down in the description box, but I've set up a raffle copter giveaway which is running right now, so you can enter right away, and that is going to run for 3 weeks until the 27th of July at midnight. This is also going to be quite a good test run for me because I am planning a 2,000 subscriber giveaway as well, so hopefully this will all work well and there won't be any issues. In terms of what you've got to do to actually enter, I've put a link to the raffle copter giveaway in the description box. Once you've clicked that, you'll see 3 different things come up. The first of which is the only mandatory option, which is to be subscribed to my channel. I did think about not making it mandatory, but at the end of the day I want to be able to give it to one of my actual subscribers. Then the other 2 options you don't actually have to do if you don't want to. The first of which is to visit my Facebook page, and the second of which is just to answer a question. So best of luck to you if you choose to enter. So like I said, that is it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and the slightly different format that I've done. If you feel like I've missed out anything, please let me know in the comments, because at the end of the day I want to be able to produce content that will be really helpful to you guys. If you did indeed find this video helpful, I would really appreciate a thumbs up down below because it does really help support my channel. And if you are new and would like to see more content like this from me in the future, I will pop a button just here so you can click it and get notified of new content as and when it gets uploaded. And if you've not seen my last video, I will pop a link to that one just up here so you can click it and check that one out too. Anyway, I hope you're all really well and I will see you again soon. Bye!